Even if you put some respect on my name and say, listen, I fight anyone, I don't care. I'm always ready to go. I'm willing to take a fight.
Moses, do you want to see Dillian carry on?
No, definitely not.
Not got a future with any other heavyweight?
No, but you could see the shots, you know. I mean, Dillian's renowned for his toughness. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, I think he was, you know, those shots were cupping shots, but you could tell I think his punch resistance gone, and I think that'll be the end for him now.
So, with respect to Itauma, I mean, he knew that he can get him out, and he got him out straight away. I mean, I think no one expected it to finish that quick.
Speed kills, as you know.
Speed kills, and he had but not only the speed, he had the power with that, and the accuracy.
Dillian Whyte has never been short on confidence. His career has been built on grit, bravado, and the willingness to take risks against some of the biggest names in heavyweight boxing. But after suffering the most humiliating defeat of his career, flattened in the very first round by teenage sensation Moses Itauma, Whyte's latest move has fans and pundits scratching their heads. Instead of reflecting on what happened under the bright lights, Whyte has come storming back, demanding a rematch against the young powerhouse who turned him into a highlight reel. To the casual observer, it might look like the actions of a fighter with unbreakable spirit, but to those who witnessed the demolition, it feels less like confidence and more like denial. Whyte wasn't edged out on points, he wasn't caught by a lucky shot, he wasn't even given a chance to work his way into the fight. He was smashed, outclassed,
Because I'm a fighter, I know what to fight. He's had more amateur fights than me and all of this other you know. He's doing what he's meant to know, and one thing is he's got the what's the word I'm looking for? The ignorance of
gunned and dismantled in seconds. The referee's intervention saved him from a far worse beating, but it didn't save his reputation. For many, Moses Itauma didn't just beat Dillian Whyte. He exposed the sharp reality that Whyte's time at the elite level is over, and yet here he is, shouting for another shot, as if Whyte's own words weren't frustrating.
But I think everyone's talking about, you know, Dillian having an injury, and I think they've probably got wind of that. I thought that we're just going to press it early and see what we're given. And, you know, he was caught quite early on the back of the head and on the side.
Enough, his brother Dean Whyte quickly stepped in to defend him. Dean attempted to spin the humiliation, blaming injuries, unlucky punches, and even the timing of the fight for Dillian's defeat. But fans aren't buying it. The truth is simple. Moses didn't need luck. He didn't stumble.
When you look at your career, at the end of your career, you'll look at your bank balance and say to yourself, you know what, it was worth it. Dillian Whyte can look at his bank balance and say, last night's fight was worth it. Did he do it for the money? He probably did. You know, Moses Itauma is a huge name, and it would have been a massive scalp to have had, but it was never going to be the case.
Across a soft spot, he bulldozed through Whyte because the gap in class, sharpness, and hunger was enormous. The excuses only made things worse because they painted Whyte as a man unwilling to accept the truth. This wasn't about ring rust. It wasn't about small mistakes. It was about one fighter on the rise and another spiraling into decline. And when you're knocked out,
no one expected it to finish that quick.
Speed kills, as you know.
Speed kills, and he had but not only the speed, he had the power with that, and the accuracy was on point. I mean, I didn't think it was gonna. I mean, I thought it'd be the opposite, where Dillian might win the first couple of rounds with his power, but I think it just shows how strong Itauma is and how powerful he is. He's a big threat in heavyweight.
That brutally, no amount of spin can erase the image of a veteran crumbling in front of the world. Former world champion Duke McKenzie didn't sugarcoat his assessment. He outright humiliated Whyte by reducing the rematch call-out to nothing more than a cash grab. This isn't about revenge, McKenzie explained. This is about one last payday. Everyone saw it. Moses didn't even have to break a sweat. Whyte was just easy money for a rising star. Those words cut deep because they echo what fans already know. Whyte's name may still carry recognition, but the performance against Itauma showed he's no longer a scalp. He's a paycheck. In boxing, perception is everything. Once you're seen as easy work, your career as a contender is finished. And McKenzie's blunt verdict makes it clear. Dillian Whyte is no longer feared. Amir Khan knows a thing or two about being undone by speed and
it's way too much for him, and it's going to be, you know, quite a nasty ending for him, a nasty ending to a career. I was worried for Dillian going into that this would be that fight, and it was. I mean, that. You don't get as it can't be any worse than that to punctuate a career, to end a career.
Power, and he didn't hesitate to rub salt into Whyte's wounds. Before Whyte could even blink, Moses had him out of there, Khan said. That wasn't an accident. That was a young, hungry fighter showing that experience doesn't matter when your opponent is too fast and too powerful. Khan's words are especially damning because the pre-fight narrative was that Whyte's experience might give him an edge. Instead, that supposed advantage was torn apart in seconds. The knockout wasn't a fluke. It was a warning sign that Whyte's days of being competitive at the top level are over. Trainer Dave Coldwell was even more ruthless. He didn't just say that Whyte lost. He said that the fight ended him, physically, mentally, and professionally. This wasn't a contest, Coldwell stated. It was a demolition. That finish wasn't just about one bad night. It was the kind of knockout that leaves scars you never recover from. Whyte still shouting for a rematch isn't bravery, it's delusion. Coldwell's take resonates with many in the boxing world. Fighters can rebound from tough nights, but there are defeats.
Whyte came in here being knocked out a couple times, wanted to see could he land a punch on this young kid, but he didn't have a chance tonight. He got mowed over, and this is a big win for a young guy. But he got to continue to fight credible opponents, and he got to get tested. He got to fight a young fighter like himself and beat a credible opponent like that, not these old washed up fighters that he can only just look.
That signal the end. And to him, Whyte's loss to Itauma was exactly that, a brutal punctuation mark at the end of his career. Former light heavyweight champion Antonio Tarver didn't just dismiss Whyte, he ridiculed him. Whyte couldn't even land properly on Moses, Tarver said. He got mauled like an amateur. A rematch? That's pure comedy. Tarver captured what fans already believe. Moses needs real challenges now, not rematches with fighters past their prime. Whyte is no longer seen as a test. He's seen as a stepping stone, a faded name trying to cling to relevance. For Whyte, that's perhaps the harshest humiliation of all. It's one thing to be beaten, it's another to be dismissed as irrelevant. Respected trainer Buddy McGirt piled on, making it clear that Whyte wasn't unlucky. He was saved. His legs were gone. His head was scrambled. The referee saved him from something far worse, McGirt explained.
Dillian wanted to continue. The referee, of course, called it off. Do you feel that that was the right call for that to happen?
Oh, I think, yes, without a doubt. Definitely, he made the right call. I think that Dill should have stayed down and taken the 8 count, then got up. But he bounced right back up, and his equilibrium was still off. And I told him, I says, you couldn't stand up straight. The referee could not let you go out.
In terms of Dillian's future, I think he said on social media that he won't make any rash decisions, but maybe looks to want to continue. Do you feel the same way that Dillian?
If it continued, Moses would have finished him in an even uglier fashion. McGirt's perspective turns Whyte's rematch demands into farce. How can a fighter who was spared further punishment believe he's ready to turn the tables? The stoppage wasn't controversial, it was merciful. Trainer Mark Tibbs was blunt in his assessment. While he gave Whyte credit for showing up in shape, he also highlighted the unavoidable truth. Whyte's body is breaking down. He's in his twilight years, Tibbs said. His body can't keep up anymore. Moses exposed that in 1 round. For fans, the message was clear. This wasn't just about a single fight, it was about age, wear and tear, and decline. Tibbs made it clear that Whyte's rematch talk isn't inspiring, it's embarrassing. Even Derek Chisora, a man who has shared brutal wars with Whyte, admitted the obvious. This wasn't the ending anyone wanted, Chisora said. But the truth is, Whyte was done the moment Moses landed clean. Chisora tried to soften the blow, suggesting southpaw inexperience may have played a role.
Good. I thought Dillian shaped up well. I thought he was in fantastic nick, but when you're at your twilight years and you're working on your weight, etc., it's taxing on yourself, and I'm pretty sure.
But even he couldn't hide the reality. This wasn't about stance, it was about speed, sharpness, and ruthlessness. Itauma was simply too much. When even your fiercest rival looks at you with pity, it's a sign your time is done. Perhaps the most humiliating voice of all was Eddie Hearn, the promoter who once built Whyte into a headline name. It was more than a disastrous start, Hearn admitted. At 38 years old, after years out of the ring, to get knocked out like that, it's time to retire. When your own promoter openly says retirement should be next, it's almost tragic to hear you calling for a rematch. Hearn's shift in focus was telling. He no longer talks about what's next for Whyte. He talks about Moses moving on to real challenges like Oleksandr Usyk. For Whyte, that's the ultimate humiliation. Not only was he destroyed in seconds, but he's now seen as yesterday's headline, irrelevant to the future of the division. Spencer Brown summed up the situation.
Hey, listen, he got caught the head on the temple, and then after that, it was a long night for him. I'm a bit sad because I didn't want him to go out like that.
Perfectly, leaving no room for Whyte to hide. I don't even know what version of Dillian showed up, Brown said. But whatever it wasn't a top 10 fighter. Moses shredded him with speed, power, and accuracy. He's finished at this level. Brown's choice of words was a top 10 fighter cut deeper than any punch. It wasn't just about losing, it was about being erased. Moses Itauma didn't just beat Dillian Whyte, he stripped him of his standing in the sport. And so here we are, Dillian Whyte, fresh off the most humiliating defeat of his career, still screaming for a rematch. The problem is simple, everyone else has moved on. Fans, pundits, rivals, even his own promoter have all admitted what Whyte refuses to say, his time is up. This isn't about unfinished business. This isn't about revenge. This is about pride, denial, and a man who can't live with the truth that a teenager destroyed him in seconds. Let's be honest, nothing. Whyte isn't suddenly,
you know, mojo from Dillian, but listen, it's very difficult when you're 38 years old. You've been out of the ring for a couple of years and you've just had that Tete fight, and you fight a brilliant young sharp fighter. We said that, you know, unless he gets into the fight, it's going to be a disastrous start for him, and it was more than a disastrous start.
Would you want to see Dillian retire?
Yeah, 100%.
What next for Moses? Because there was talk about Usyk.
I wanted to see him in with a live, active heavyweight, you know, because he's definitely good enough.
Suddenly going to find youth. He isn't suddenly going to gain the speed, reflexes, and chin he once had. He isn't going to reverse years of decline in a few months. Meanwhile, Moses Itauma is only getting sharper, stronger, and hungrier. Every day in the gym, every fight under the bright lights, he's growing. Whyte is clinging to a reputation that has already been smashed to pieces. The gap between them is not narrowing, it's widening. At this stage, the real story isn't whether Whyte deserves a rematch. The story is whether he can protect what's left of his legacy. Because one more beating at the hands of Moses Itauma, and that legacy is gone forever. Boxing is cruel. It doesn't remember the nights you fought through pain or the wars you won. It remembers the brutal endings. If Whyte steps in with Itauma again, he risks becoming nothing more than a footnote in someone else's rise. So the question now belongs to the fans. Do you back the new king, Moses Itauma, to finish the job again and cement his status?
I don't know what he beat tonight in Dillian. All week he looks a bit weak to me. I don't know if you saw him, but look, you've got to take your hat off to him. He beat a seasoned top 10 fighter, or he was a top 10 fighter, and he's such a nice kid. He's got every attribute you could want, and he hurts and knocks people out. Speed kills.
As the future of heavyweight boxing, or do you believe Dillian Whyte against all odds can shock the world and turn back time? For most, the answer feels painfully obvious.